What? A monster like you isn't welcome at our daughter's wedding. Don't you want Samantha's wedding to be perfect? You don't even need to know when it is. Feeling emboldened, John said such hurtful things. It reminded me of the time he didn't tell me about the school open house. How long is he going to repeat the same thing? I trembled with anger. Fine. But I knew it was pointless to argue with a drunk, so I kept my response short. In my heart, I whispered, "You'll regret this." He didn't realize that things were different this time. He remained cheerful and soon fell asleep, snoring loudly. My name is Emily. I'm a 55-year-old housewife. Currently, I work part-time at a local factory and live with my husband, John. We have one daughter. Her name is Samantha. After graduating from college, she started living on her own while working full-time. She's a kind and thoughtful daughter who frequently checks in on us, which makes me very happy. As a parent, I feel very blessed, but as a woman, I have a significant insecurity. It's a large burn scar on my face. Shortly after getting married, I witnessed a terrible accident. While waiting at a crosswalk, I saw a car crash in front of a group of people on the other side. Gasoline was leaking from the car, and it was about to catch fire. Everyone around was in a panic. At that moment, my legs moved on their own. Are you okay? Recklessly, I ran to the crash site to help the people who couldn't move. Then, I saw the flickering orange flames. I honestly thought it was the end, and I needed to escape. But I snapped back to reality when I heard a little girl crying under a bicycle. I couldn't give up there. I pulled the crying girl out and handed her to another pedestrian, then rushed back to the scene. I carried an elderly man who had fallen and twisted his ankle to safety. At that moment, there was a small explosion. I was in the wrong place and was knocked down by the blast. When I came to, my face felt hot, and the old man was shouting, "Are you okay?" "I'm okay." "Are there any other injured people?" "It looks like everyone has evacuated." "You need to go to the hospital." His words reassured me. Miraculously, everyone had escaped. Even the driver managed to get out, and despite the severity of the accident, no one was killed. I went to the hospital. The hot blast had left me with a burn on my face. It wasn't life-threatening, but my exposed face was left with a large scar. Even though I knew I did the right thing, the scar on my face always bothered me. The doctor said the skin was red and scarred, and the mark would never fade. John tried to comfort me. "Don't worry about the scar. We're lucky you're alive." I felt fortunate to have married him. He was right. I couldn't dwell on it forever. I eventually returned to my part-time job and resumed my normal life. Not long after, I found out I was pregnant. Overjoyed, I immediately told John. "John, it looks like we're having a baby." "What?" I thought he would be happy too. But after his initial surprise, his expression changed. "What's wrong?" "Well," I started to feel a little anxious and asked him. "I've been thinking, maybe it's too soon for a baby." "What?" "We've only been married for a little over a year. I think we should enjoy more time together as a couple." His words shocked me. While couple time is important, the life of our child is far more precious. John didn't outright say to give up the baby, knowing that would make him the bad guy, but his words suggested it. It made me furious. This was our first big fight. The house was eerily quiet for days. A few days later, I thought about it in the bath. We couldn't go on like this, but I would never give up our baby. So, I decided to be the adult, approach John, and make him understand. With that resolve, I got out of the bath and headed to our bedroom where he was. I don't know how to say this. I heard his voice and stopped in my tracks. It seemed he was on the phone with his mother, discussing the baby. He continued, unaware that I was listening. "A kid with a mom who looks like that? It's unfair. I was planning to divorce her eventually, but now there's a baby. It's a huge mistake." I froze upon hearing those words. Sure, she became like that because she saved someone. It's commendable. But, think about me, having to be next to her. Tears flowed uncontrollably from my eyes. He had been kind to me all this time, but secretly harbored such thoughts. If that's how he truly felt, he should have divorced me when I got the burn. I quietly left the scene. And I packed my things. But my family lived far away. With nowhere to go, I sat in a park, pondering my next move. I decided to go home to my parents the next morning. I needed to find somewhere to stay for the night, but having just taken a bath and removed my makeup, I felt ashamed to be seen. Emily. I heard John's voice. He had realized I left and was looking for me. I tried to run, but he quickly caught up with me. Leaving the house at this hour? What are you thinking? John yelled at me. Come on, let's go home. He gently took my hand. I shook it off. What? You think I'm embarrassing, don't you? His eyes widened at my words. You think it's better not to have the baby because it's pitiful, right? If that's the case, why didn't you say so from the start? I cried out to him. He sighed heavily, clearly exasperated. Yes, but would you have accepted it if I said that? You always think only about yourself. Think about the baby and me for once. Our argument went in circles. I thought if I gave in, things would settle down, but I couldn't bring myself to give up on the baby. I even considered raising the child alone. However, when I brought up the possibility of divorce, John said, if we divorce, I'll take the child. Can you go to kindergarten or school with that face? His words shattered my confidence. In the end, I prioritized my child's life and desire to raise them over my desire for freedom and gave birth. I felt sorry for being a mother with such a face, but I was overwhelmed with relief and joy that my daughter was born with a beautiful face. Our daughter, named Samantha, grew up quickly. John immediately fell in love with the little girl with the beautiful smile. Though he had tried to steer me toward giving up the baby, he now said, meeting Samantha is the happiest moment of my life. It left me with mixed feelings of frustration and happiness. As a father, John was very involved with Samantha. However, as he grew more attached to her, his treatment of me worsened, and the difference became stark. I'll go to her school entrance ceremony. It's better that way, right? He attended all her kindergarten entrance ceremonies, sports days, and other events, and he usually handled the drop-offs and pickups. Eventually, he stopped informing me of observation days to ensure I couldn't attend. Yet, when Samantha fell ill, he'd say, Emily, you should show up at the kindergarten occasionally. We owe them, you know. It left me speechless. John was oblivious to how mean he was being, looking down on me in ways that made me question his humanity. Despite having such a father, Samantha grew up well. Mommy, I love you so much. She would always say. John looked displeased at her words but couldn't say anything, and thanks to Samantha, our home was always filled with smiles. As Samantha grew, she began to ask me to come to her kindergarten. Mommy, I want you to come to the gymnastics class observation day. Is there an observation day? Yes. I got praised for doing a great forward roll. Watch me. Apparently, she was doing mat exercises and started rolling forward happily on the carpet. John, watching with a smile, spoke up. Wow. Samantha, you're so good. I'm glad Mommy could see it too. Yes. So, on the observation day, too. Oh, unfortunately, Mommy has work that day. Daddy will go instead. Show Mommy at home, okay? I was infuriated by his words. I hadn't seen any notice about the observation day. He must have taken the notice out of her bag. I didn't know the date or whether I had work. If Samantha wanted me to come, I could take time off, but he had already told her I couldn't come. It was too cruel. As expected, Samantha's face fell at his words. She had been so excited to show me her forward roll, and my heart ached. Don't make that face. Mommy wants to come, but she can't help it. She'll come next time. Okay. She replied reluctantly to his words. That night, after Samantha had gone to bed, I confronted John. I didn't know about the observation day. I could take the day off. It's unfair. Don't get mad. I didn't want you to feel pressured to go. Samantha wants me to come too. Fueled by anger, I lashed out at him. Tears started to flow. Samantha had never asked me to come before, probably out of consideration, but now she had. I desperately wanted to fulfill her wish. Calm down. I hate to say this, but what do you think her friends will say when they see your face? What if they get scared and start bullying her? That's... Saving someone's life and ruining your own family's life doesn't seem worth it, does it? He spat those words out before stopping his drink and leaving the living room. Left alone, I cried bitterly. For the first time, I regretted my involvement in that accident rescue. This kind of thing happened repeatedly. In elementary school, John attended all the parent-teacher days, and I was not allowed to go. The only event I could secretly attend was the sports day, where I could blend into the crowd without being recognized as Samantha's mother. My involvement in her school life was limited to that. When she became a middle schooler, her rebellious phase kicked in, and even John was told, "Don't come." So I couldn't fully support her school life. I resigned myself to thinking it was my fault. Dad always came, but you were never interested in me. Samantha eventually thought and started distancing herself from me. Feeling as if I had lost my only emotional support, I endured painful days. Despite everything, she grew up healthy, becoming a high school student, then a college student, and finally a working adult. Fortunately, her rebellious phase ended in high school, and now we are close again, like before. Now, Samantha is getting married. Her fiancé, Sean, is 5 years older and a wonderful man. They met through her high school friend, Kate, who is Sean's cousin and lived nearby, leading to their relationship. "My boyfriend wants to come over and introduce himself," Samantha said. John responded, "Of course, it's my duty to see what kind of man he is." His pompous attitude made us smile wryly. She also included me. "Mom, you'll be there too, right?" "Of course. I'm looking forward to meeting Sean." "What?" John interrupted our cheerful conversation. "You shouldn't be there. What if the engagement gets called off?" "What do you mean? Why would it be called off? If they find out your mother has such a scar, what do you think will happen?" He was always tough on me, but he was weak in front of Samantha. But he still didn't want me to meet her fiancé. "I don't think that will happen," she said, looking at me uncertainly. I wanted to meet Sean, but if I insisted, it might ruin the introduction. I had no intention of opposing the marriage, so it seemed best to stay out of the way. I told her, "All right. I'll stay out of it." "Mom." Her face fell, just like before. But I smiled at her, trying to convey that it was okay. The meeting went very well. John liked Sean, saying, "I'm glad he isn't a loser or a jerk," in his usual rude manner but clearly in a good mood. Sean's parents also joined, and they all had drinks together. He was delighted and remained in high spirits the entire time. Her parents are perfect, and they seem to like me. Now Samantha won't be mistreated after she gets married. It would have been tough if she were the child of embarrassing, disgraceful parents. His words implied that it was good I didn't meet them, which made me feel utterly uncomfortable. Moreover, he even discussed the wedding plans with them. I thought it was just a greeting, but we ended up having a perfect meeting and even talked about the wedding. "Oh, really? When is it?" "What? A monster like you isn't welcome at our daughter's wedding. Don't you want her wedding to be perfect? You don't even need to know when it is." Feeling emboldened, John said such hurtful things. It reminded me of the time he didn't tell me about the school open house. How long is he going to repeat the same thing? I trembled with anger. Fine. But I knew it was pointless to argue with a drunk, so I kept my response short. In my heart, I whispered, "You'll regret this." He didn't realize that things were different this time. He remained cheerful and soon fell asleep, snoring loudly. Then came the day of the wedding. John seemed nervous from the morning, restlessly preparing and saying, "I'll take pictures for you." Did he think I would be grateful for that? I turned away with a huff. "What? Don't sulk. This is for Samantha's happiness. If you stay out of it, everyone will be happy. Just stay at home today." With that, he left for the wedding venue. I silently saw him off but couldn't just stay quietly at home as he suggested. I decided to head to a certain place. As I approached my destination, my phone rang. It was John. I sighed, thinking he would boast, and ignored the call. But the phone kept ringing again and again. It was incessant. Hello? I answered angrily after the persistent ringing. John was frantic on the other end. I listened, wondering what was going on. Where are you? What are you doing? What? What's got you so worked up? Isn't the wedding going on? Don't call me. Wait, don't hang up. The wedding is a disaster. He was almost hysterical. His panic was so intense that I couldn't understand and asked again. What do you mean? Just get here as fast as you can. I hung up but didn't hurry and started walking again. Then I entered the door to my destination. Emily. Kate. Long time no see. Standing there was Samantha's best friend, Kate. The wedding has already started. She smiled as she saw me. Yes, this was the venue for Sean and Samantha's wedding. Samantha had told me, no matter what Dad says, you must come. She even said that if I didn't show up, her friend Kate would come to get me. So, I had decided to come today no matter what John said. He might be embarrassed to see me, but I didn't care anymore. If he said anything, I was ready to snap back. With that resolve, I arrived at the venue and peeked into the hall with Kate. But what I saw inside shocked me. There, under the spotlight, was John. What's going on? I asked Kate, who smiled and pointed at Samantha. Through the microphone, Samantha said, Dad, explain to everyone why Mom isn't here. I was stunned by her words. Kate, what's going on? What is this situation? I asked Kate again, bewildered. She has been planning this since long before she started dating Sean. She said with a smile, seeing my confusion. The story goes back several years. During her rebellious middle school years, Samantha's frustration exploded because I never came to her school events, creating a huge rift between us. John just watched, pleased, and did nothing to mend our relationship. I was troubled by my strained relationship with her and felt miserable every day. However, a turning point came for us. When Samantha started high school, she said, I want to bring a friend home. A friend? Of course, you're welcome. She planned to study for a test together from morning until evening. It was the first time she had made such a request. While I was happy, I also worried about my facial scar. But wouldn't it be better if I weren't home? I asked indirectly, but she said casually, it doesn't matter. Taking her at her word, I enthusiastically prepared lunch and snacks. Then the day came. Kate, this is my mom. The girl called Kate widened her eyes briefly at the sight of my face. I thought she must be staring at my scar, but I smiled kindly. Your name is Kate? I'm Emily, Samantha's mother. Our names are quite similar. Oh, yes, I'm Kate. Nice to meet you. Let's study. My room's this way. Samantha led a bewildered Kate to her room. Feeling I had made them both uncomfortable, I felt downhearted. What if this causes a rift between them? I debated whether to bring them tea or leave the house, when suddenly Samantha called out, Mom. Wondering what was wrong, I rushed to her room. Inside, I found them laughing and wiping away tears. What happened? Why are you both crying? Samantha then asked. Mom, is it true you got your scar from saving someone during an accident? What? Her sudden question left me baffled. I had told her that my burn was due to my own carelessness. John had said, it's better not to mention that it was from saving someone. I agreed with him on that. I didn't think I had done anything remarkable. I didn't feel it was something worth mentioning. But somehow Samantha knew. Looking at their serious faces, I said, Yes, but how did you know? I knew it. Kate exclaimed before Samantha could respond. My grandfather was the one you saved. What? Kate explained. Her grandfather had an accident before she was born. He had twisted his ankle and was stuck in front of a burning car when a young woman saved him. He wanted to thank her, but the police wouldn't give him her information due to privacy laws. All he knew was that she had suffered a burn on her face and that her name was Emily. Her family was so grateful, and they named their daughter Kate. Grandpa passed away last year, but he always told me that story. I never imagined Samantha's mom was our hero. In our family. You're like a legend. Kate wiped her tears as she spoke. Her surprise at seeing my face and name made sense now. This miraculous connection brought tears to my eyes. I see. Kate, I'm glad you became friends with Samantha. From then on, Samantha never distanced herself from me again. Kate often came over, and we were also invited to her house, becoming close friends with her family. Because of this, I already knew Sean, Kate's cousin, and his parents. I never imagined Sean and Samantha would get married, but given our connection, I had no reason to oppose their union. Samantha eventually realized that John was the reason I never appeared at her school events. While he had been a good father to her, she picked up on his belittling remarks about me. Worried that I wouldn't be allowed at her wedding either. She hid a voice recorder in the living room. Hearing his derogatory comments about me enraged her. She decided to play those recordings as part of today's opening movie. That must have been why John frantically called me. When the video ended, the spotlight fell on him. Sweating profusely, he shrank under the gaze of Samantha and the guests. I always wanted Mom to come. I'm shocked that you were the one telling her not to. Samantha yelled, her anger exploding. Samantha, I was thinking of you. John stammered. For me? Who asked you to do that? She shouted. Samantha, calm down. This is your wedding day. Think of Sean and his family. He tried to smile and cover it up. Sean's father stood up. Is her story true? We were told Emily wasn't there because she had a cold. It's true. She's always sick at important times. Even today, she has a stomach ache. Ha ha. John laughed nervously. At that moment, Kate grabbed my hand. Let's go, Emily. Kate led me into the venue. I followed her, holding my head high. Mom. Samantha beamed at me. Why are you here? His voice echoed through the microphone. Everyone's eyes turned toward me, and John, flustered, spoke into the microphone again. My wife's burn on her face. It's from her carelessness. She looks like a monster, but Sean, and everyone in his family, she's not dangerous. He laughed awkwardly, but I didn't hide my face. I had decided not to be ashamed of my burn anymore, especially after everything Samantha did for me. Despite being exposed and under cold scrutiny, John still called me a monster. Sean's parents and relatives were visibly trembling with anger. Borrowing Kate's words, I was their legendary hero. I felt proud that there were people who would stand up for me. Just fix this. If you say I never told you not to come, everything will be fine. Clear my name. John whispered in my ear, away from the microphone. What a ridiculous request. How could I clear his name when he wasn't innocent? I took the microphone. I apologize for causing a disturbance. I said, offering a sincere expression. As Samantha mentioned, I couldn't attend her kindergarten or school events because my husband didn't allow me to. Hey, you idiot. John turned pale at my words. He said she would be bullied because of my burn scars. I had no choice. Mom. Samantha said softly. But meeting Kate and Sean has brightened my life. John looked at Sean. He nodded with a smile. My scars are from saving people in an accident. The large scar left me with regrets. But knowing that one of the people I saved was Kate's and Sean's grandfather made me feel I did the right thing. John's eyes widened. My husband said I was foolish, that I threw away our family's life by saving others. But I know I wasn't wrong. I am deeply grateful to Samantha, Sean, Kate, and their families for accepting me despite my scars. Please take care of Samantha from now on. I gave a heartfelt thanks. Applause erupted from the audience. I apologized again for the trouble caused and left the spotlight as the host skillfully resumed the wedding. Emily, please don't leave. Sean's father stopped me. Thanks to him, I was able to witness Samantha's precious moment. People without hearts, like you, should leave. Samantha said. Samantha. I can't consider you my father anymore. She dismissed John as she left to change her dress. He, shocked by his beloved daughter's words, sat on a bench outside the venue, crying. I approached him. Now you know how it feels to be told not to attend an important event for your child. I hoped he would reflect on his actions, but his response was far from what I expected. This is a wedding. You can't compare it to school events, he said, almost angrily. It was like he was venting his frustration. I realized he hadn't learned anything. Who told me not to come to this wedding? And the kindergarten entrance and graduation ceremonies, school entry and graduation ceremonies. All of them were once-in-a-lifetime important events. John fell silent at my outburst. What I should regret was quietly obeying him all these years. I will never forget today's wedding, which made me realize that. I returned to the venue alone and was able to watch the rest of the ceremony. It was a wonderful ceremony. Samantha couldn't stop crying with emotion, and every time she looked at me from the head table, she smiled warmly. It reminded me of when she was a little girl, always looking to make sure I was there. Mom, I'm so glad you're here. She told me at the end of the ceremony, and I cried again. I must have caused her so much loneliness. Regret washed over me, but I decided not to dwell on the past. From now on, I'll be there for all your important moments. I promised. After the ceremony, John's parents and relatives, who had been unaware of his misdeeds, rushed to apologize to me. My parents were furious. Especially my father, who told me, if you ever want to divorce him, you can always come home. Even at my age, relying on my parents touched me deeply. Had I sought their advice earlier, things might have turned out differently, but I realized this was the best and happiest present I could create. The story didn't end there. One of Sean's friends who attended the wedding worked at the same company as John, and the news spread quickly. John, who pretended to be a family man but treated his wife like a monster, was now the subject of office gossip. He had lost his place in the company, no longer boasting in the cafeteria but eating lunch alone in a corner. Sean's friend reported this to me through him. I hope he now understands a little of what it feels like to be alone. I added when I responded, ensuring no one spoke to John. I felt a sense of vindication. After preparing myself, I told John I wanted a divorce. A divorce? That's too drastic, he protested. You planned to divorce me when I got the burn, right? I'm just making it easier for you. That was... He stammered. He refused the divorce. He was already isolated at work, abandoned by relatives and our daughter, and the thought of losing me as well likely made him anxious. But I had no intention of staying under his control any longer. The best thing you can do for me now is to let me go and be happy. Besides, if you stay, Samantha might face more cruelty. Cut ties with both of us. His shoulders slumped in defeat. Fine, I'll stay away from Samantha, but please reconsider the divorce. He pleaded with tear-filled eyes, but I was resolute. Samantha invited me to live with her. I'll be moving out tomorrow. Leaving a begging John, I slammed down the signed divorce papers. He ended up alone. Even our neighbors kept their distance from him. Samantha told me she saw him slumped over, buying a pre-made meal at the grocery store. He used to let you handle all the unpleasant and hard tasks, taking credit for the good parts. Now he'll have to learn the hard way, she said. Indeed, John couldn't clean, do laundry, or cook. The punishment for not valuing his wife was greater than he had imagined. I now live happily with Samantha and Sean. She is pregnant and due to become a mother next fall. My goal is to be a mom like you, she said lovingly, caressing her belly. When the baby is born, let's go to the kindergarten entrance ceremony, the graduation ceremony, the sports day, and the recitals together. She invited me warmly. I nodded repeatedly, trying to hold back my tears. We can't change the past, but there's so much happiness waiting in the future. I realized that more deeply than ever.